thank you to everyone for joining our session today. We're super excited to have the Herff Jones team here to talk about their creative efficiency. So again, I'm Carly Mason. I'm the Director of Growth Marketing at MediaValet. And today I am co-hosted by Saverio Mastone, who is a Strategic Account Executive at Wrike. We're so thrilled today to be joined by Michelle Hammond, as well as Kelsey Goodrich, who is the Manager of Art Operations and Team Lead at Herff Jones. So as Ian mentioned, today they're really going to be sharing how they improve their creative processes and their efficiency with using Wrike and MediaValet together. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us. We're very happy to be here to share this with everybody. I know that Kelsey and I are both very excited to talk about this with everyone. We're just really happy to be here.
Amazing. Yeah, we're very excited to have you here as well, obviously. Perfect. All right, so let's jump into some questions. To start us off, can you just let us know a little bit about Herff Jones as well as your roles there?
Absolutely. Herff Jones is an Indianapolis, Indiana-based company that's focused on celebrating student milestones by designing, manufacturing, and selling caps, gowns, tassels, graduation announcements, diplomas, class rings and championship jewelry, graduation frames, and all kinds of soft goods and accessories. We serve schools from kindergarten through college all across the US, and we've been around for 104 years. And each division of the company focuses on a different aspect of the graduation or educational achievement experience. Kelsey and I are part of the Fine Papers group, which focuses on diplomas and graduation announcements. And I'd like to give a virtual shout out to our other Herff Jones art departments like jewelry, marketing, frames, and cap and gown, who are also using Wrike and MediaValet in tandem every day for their own projects. As for our roles, we wear a lot of hats since the art teams in our company were among the first departments to adopt both Wrike and MediaValet. So we often wind up doing double duty, managing art tasks and fielding tech support questions about Wrike and MediaValet. But I mostly handle big picture stuff, project timelines, personnel management, workflow overviews, and Kelsey?
Well, as the team lead, I handle a lot more of the day-to-day. I'm in the nitty-gritty. I assign out all of the assignments to our artists, as well as tracking down our root causes of quality issues and helping working hand in hand with Michelle to streamline processes through our department.
And both Kelsey and I team up to work on brainstorming new workflows and workflow updates that will make our lives easier because we like things easy.
Absolutely. And it sounds like, you have no shortage of roles between your roles on the actual art team as well as being the administrators of MediaValet. So really, really amazing job there. Let's take a step into the wider team and just taking a look at what is your full team responsible for and what does your day-to-day look like typically?
Yeah, so I like to say that the Fine Papers art team directly bridges the gap between the customer-facing front of house, like sales and customer service, and then the manufacturing back of house, like pre-press and production. So we're the center of that hourglass. Everything touches our department.
Yeah, we're responsible for building all of the production art assets. So crest etchings, foil spellouts. If it has to be printed, it goes through our department first. But we also create photorealistic mock-ups of our products. As you can see on the slide, things like diploma covers and the front of announcements, which that's what we call a page one. And that's probably the most common thing that we make. And during our busy season, we'll actually make between 3,000 to 4,000 of these.
Wow, 3,000 to 4,000 is wild in the best way. That sounds like you're doing a ton of work.
That's within just months too.
So Michelle and Kelsey, I'm curious if we could rewind the clock from the time before Wrike and MediaValet. What were some of the friction points and challenges you were facing with your own creative processes?
For the most part, we were creating useful assets, but we didn't really have a good way to get those assets to people who needed them.
Right. Yeah. They were spread all over the place on our servers, in emails, on SharePoint, and in our Wrike tasks, which are mostly preliminary assets. And so also with them scattered all over the place, different users had like limited access to a lot of those assets that we were making as well. And as Michelle and I like to refer to it, it was the Wild West. There were no rules.
It's true. Sending assets to people manually and individually on a daily basis, it was tedious, it was confusing, it was time consuming, it was far from efficient. We were trying to get people to always comment on the Wrike task for the original request, which was how we controlled things, but there wasn't always a Wrike request for things. And often people would default to email. So there were a lot of pieces of information and a lot of pieces of art just kind of floating around everywhere. We can go to the next slide, I think.
I know that definitely something we want to move away from is the past, right? So let's talk about the present. What does the current state look like for your workflows, and what's the current state, I guess, after the whole tech revamp that your team's gone through?
Well, as you can see from the photo, we're a lot happier now. Yeah, we've definitely streamlined things. We've removed a lot of processes that we don't need, a lot of paper work. And one big change is something that we called our finalization workflow. The screenshot on the other side is a checklist from a Wrike blueprint that we made for that, where essentially when an artist is finished with an asset, they can go through the different action items to get that completed, with the seamless addition of the final step, which is publishing it from Wrike to MediaValet. And by doing this, we don't have to print anything. We don't have to send anything, in some other method to other users. And so that by adding that small step, we've actually gained back a lot of our time. As I like to say, we took a small step backwards to take a giant leap forward in productivity. And the biggest place that we actually have seen this impact is in what we call our page one workflow, which we're actually going to demonstrate in a recording on the next slide.
In this recording, Kelsey is filling out one of our Wrike request forms. This one is specifically designed for customer service to request from the art department the custom graduation announcement mock-ups that we call page ones. Many of the questions she's filling out in this Wrike request form are based on drop-down menus that will then become custom fields for the resulting task. And as you'll see later on, those custom fields will automatically translate into MediaValet attributes. So as you can see here, the request form has now generated a task, and along with the instructional or informational text that the request form has automatically generated, it has also auto-populated certain custom fields with the information according to the way she answered the questions in the form. Things like sales partner name and number, customer number, design number, and so on. And here she's attaching the artwork that will ultimately be published to MediaValet. The artist assigned to the task would normally do this. And this is what the page one document actually looks like, a PNG of the front of a custom graduation announcement. Okay, so now she's going to select the document she wants to publish to MediaValet from Wrike. And she's signing into MediaValet since she hasn't signed in yet today. And she's going to navigate to the two categories where we want this artwork to live. Okay, and she's showing you that she successfully selected the two categories shown there at the bottom of the Cloud Connector window. And now she's demonstrating that the custom fields that those drop-down menus from the Wrike form populated are about to be translated into MediaValet attributes. They auto-populate, so the artist who's finalizing this artwork doesn't have to type anything. There's less room for error since everything came from a drop-down menu in the first place, but if something needs to be changed, it can be. So you can see here the color and paper choices, the text color options. All of these have auto-populated in MediaValet attributes and will be searchable in MediaValet. Back in Wrike, only a proxy now exists, so old or incorrect artwork can't be accidentally downloaded. And Wrike isn't our DAM anyway, and we shouldn't be storing large images there. So she's got that asset open in another tab in MediaValet, and here it is. And as you can see, all of the attributes listed underneath the image information correspond to the Wrike custom fields that were selected in our predefined drop-down menus. And you can see also in this view that the art is saved into both categories that were selected in the Cloud Connector. Our asset groupings category, where we have everything saved by the type of art it is, and our institutions category, where we have everything saved alphabetically by school name. So in a nutshell, that is how we publish art from Wrike to MediaValet. Our finalization process involves a few more steps, but this workflow is the core of the process and has really streamlined things for us. And not to get too into the weeds with this, but if you look over at the attributes here, you can see that what's searchable includes things like sales partner, foil colors 1 and 2, paper color, product specialist or CSR, font style, design number, die number, and more. Okay, so on the next slide here, in comparison, on the left here, you can see that this is what we used to use for our page ones. On the left is a stack of printed tickets in plastic sleeves. And this is the analog way we used to process all of our jobs. And the page one above it with that black slug line at the bottom is what our page ones used to look like. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but at the bottom, reversed out in white type, is all the information that we used to be able to include with our page ones, which was, I think you can kind of see it there, design number, paper color, a couple of foil colors, and sometimes the font style. That's about it. That was hand keyed in by the artist that made the page one, which meant that because it was hand typed, it was prone to errors. It obviously was not searchable in any way. And so basically our Wrike to MediaValet workflow vastly improved this in every single way. It improved the speed, the accuracy, the accessibility, the overall ease of the process. And we're very happy to be rid of the analog basket of printed job tickets. In the past, all of the information about the asset had to be included either on the page one or somewhere in the file name, because we had to provide that as part of our analog workflow. But now our art asset can look much prettier and be more professional because the information is embedded automatically as metadata. So we can go on and talk about this. So.
I mean, that demonstration showed off a number of great achievements, but what would you say are some of the more meaningful milestones that your team has worked to achieve to this new kind of current state that we've landed on?
Well, I can't speak enough about the integration of MediaValet with Wrike, since Wrike is so ingrained in our every single day process, so not only in our department, but just company-wide. Having a DAM that can communicate with Wrike that then we can integrate into things that we're already doing was big. It's a big selling point to tell the team, hey, there's one more thing that you have to do, one more step in your process, but the end result is going to save you a lot of time and headache in the long run.
Yeah, huge. That's huge for us. Another thing is Wrike blueprints. A blueprint is basically a Wrike task that you can use as a template to generate new tasks. And so you can take a Wrike task that you really like the way it's set up. You can add info text, you can add assignees to it, you can make the status be anything that you want. You can set it up exactly how you want, and then you can add that to, let's say, a request form, and you can say, okay, every time somebody chooses this particular drop down choice in your request form, automatically now make it be this blueprint. And so that was just a game changer for us, that we could set up all these blueprints to, you know, act in certain ways. And that just, it changed everything for us. So that was super helpful. And then just reevaluating all of our workflows and being able to look at the steps that we take and say, you know, why are we doing things this way? And is there a simpler way that we could do that? Is there a faster way we could do it? Is there a better way that we could do it? Just rethinking all of those processes. All of those things are, you know, and in fact, we have specific examples of those, like our finalization workflow, and like the newest one that we did was a diploma workflow that we implemented. And the ticket basket workflow is another one. In fact, I think we're going to talk about that on the next slide. Yeah, so one of our big success stories about using Wrike and MediaValet integration involves what we actually called our ticket basket workflow. And we called the process this because the entire thing centered around moving hundreds of physical job tickets in these plastic sleeves in and out of a series of baskets every single day on a ridiculously short time schedule. And this photo on the slide shows a photo of a typical day's workload during our peak season. Actually, it's a pretty bad day, actually, when I look. So we would have to print out page ones, which you've seen, and CRES specs, which is another one of our main asset types. And we would have to print them, check them, and scan them out of our department, and then deliver all of these to another building. And somebody in the art department would have to do this, just because the files and the data associated with them were not shared with anybody else. So the need to print and exhaustively quality check every single one of these assets against a production ticket connected to a job that was going to be printed within the week during our department's busiest season demanded the hire of an extra full-time temp. And that was difficult for us.
Right. I will say though, at the time, the benefit of having it all in our control was that it gave us visibility and, like I said, control over our assets. So they were in a safe place where only we had access to them, where they couldn't be messed with. But by doing that, we were like burdened with all of the knowledge. And so, and like Michelle said, that ended up creating quite a backlog and a strain on our department. So we knew we had to think of a better way to go about this. And it had to start with sharing the assets with others and sharing that burden of knowledge, so to speak.
Yeah, by pushing the contents of our Wrike custom fields into MediaValet attributes, we were able to make our assets searchable by those other departments and even other facilities. So we were finally able to do away with all the inefficient and manual handoffs. And because other departments could search, view, and download, and even print what they needed from MediaValet, we no longer needed to shuffle all those tickets. So that particular workflow completely bypasses our department now, and we get to use the baskets for other things. And we're saving a mountain of paper. We don't have to print those pages for quality checks because the quality checks are done electronically now. And we were able to allocate the hours used for that temp for other things. So that's what saved us all that time.
That's absolutely amazing. And I love to hear specifically going from what I'll call a very physical process where you're working with paper and sleeves and walking back and forth.
Yeah.
To it's all digital, all automated, which is really incredible. I know you covered probably a ton of this just even in the last 2 slides alone, but could you summarize what are the biggest impacts that you've seen with having Wrike and MediaValet connected and really optimizing those workflows?
Absolutely. So it has not only reduced the workload for the art department, but it's done that without increasing the workload on other departments. In fact, it's actually benefited those other departments because now they're able to find the art assets they need directly from MediaValet as well, without going through the bottleneck of our department and, requesting art from our team. So work is processed more quickly as our workflows function more seamlessly between both platforms.
And personally, I really like having one single source of truth to point people to, as opposed to being worried that someone's going to grab some, asset that isn't relevant anymore, or maybe is preliminary or wrong. I can sleep better at night now knowing that.
I'd also like to sing the praises wherever I can of MediaValet portals. There's a screenshot here on the slide. Allowing people outside the facility some limited access to groups of products is a great reference that has really decreased the number of requests we've gotten for particular collections of assets. So groups of images like specific collections of graduation announcements or cap and gown reference materials, which is what you see here in the screenshot. These are images that in the past we would have had to collect in a folder somewhere and either like email as a low-res PDF or share on SharePoint or something like that. And we don't have to do that anymore. Instead, it looks professional and beautiful, and I love it.
Absolutely. I'd say branded portals are always a bit of a fan favorite among MediaValet customers. You can do lots of unique, fun, visual things with them, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
So I know you have obviously seen a ton of success with connecting these two solutions, a ton of success with both of them individually as well. I think a question that's probably burning in the back of everyone's mind is just, how do you do it? Change management is not easy, especially with a team that already has their process solidified. So just how did you get your team on board? How did you get buy-in for these new systems and new processes?
Sure.
Well, it was a lot of brainstorming with me and Michelle, a lot of whiteboarding and visualizing of processes. But then when we found something that we could really get behind, that we could really sell, then it was meeting after conversation, to not only illustrate what it is we're trying to accomplish, but then trying to get people to see the ultimate benefit of it. Trying to get people to look past all of the nitty gritty in the middle, the steps to get to the greater good for everyone's benefit. And there was a lot of work, but obviously the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a slow process,
Yeah.
but I think once everybody sees that the process is working, that the workflows like really function well, and once everybody sees what a dramatic difference it's making, then everybody gets really happy. And, everybody kind of wants to do what they can to make it work as well. And it always helps if we bring cookies to meetings. I learned that.
Yeah, absolutely. A little smidge of bribery goes a long way when it comes to getting people to try something new.
For sure.
Amazing. Okay, so you're off the hook. You've reached the end of all of the questions. Thank you so, so much for joining us today. I think I speak for everyone on the call when I say this has been hugely valuable, not only speaking to your processes, speaking to what you've done, but also showcasing it through the video, through some of the imagery that you use. So you dove deep with us, and I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, so we do have some Q&A, so we'll jump into some questions, and then we'll wrap up. So just to start us off, if I'm just getting started with setting up request forms in Wrike, what are some tips as a beginner?
I can answer this. I love building Wrike forms, but I will say to get started, keep it simple. View a Wrike form as being very linear. I know a lot of people when they get started, they want to be able to do so much. They want to branch here and they want to answer this question, accomplish this. You can accomplish a lot with a Wrike form, but I think starting simple and then building off of that and adding on to it is probably going to be your best bet.
Absolutely. All right. And what advice would you give to determine whether you want to create a new type of request form versus adding more questions and fields to an existing request form?
So I'll take this one. So when we first started out, we created a new request form for everything, it seems like, and we eventually ended up with over 200 request forms. It was a lot, and people were having trouble finding out which request form was which. They couldn't remember which one to use for what. And so recently we ended up pruning down our number of request forms. And I think I mentioned the diploma workflow that we recently implemented. We actually took like 5 or 6 request forms and combined them into one. And so we're actually trying to get rid of a lot of request forms. So if there's a way to combine a bunch of your workflows into a single request form, I would do that as much as possible. Don't make the mistake that we did.
Perfect. And then do you have any security limitations using portals in MediaValet? Meaning, do portals expose you to any risk with sharing outside of your firewall?
No, actually you can set access for portals. You can choose who to share your portals with. And in some cases, we actually have 2 separate portals, one for internal and one for external clients.
Perfect. And I know you can set password protection, you can do expiry dates, so things like that that help add that extra layer of protection as well.
Yep.
And someone's curious, how long has it been since you started using Wrike? And how long do you think it took for your team to get used to it?
So Kelsey and I both started with Herff Jones in 2020, and Wrike had just been implemented just prior to that. And so we've been using Wrike the whole time that we've worked here. So that's been 4 years. And it was very easy to start using. It's very user-friendly. Prior to that, both Kelsey and I actually worked at another job together. And in that job, we used, am I allowed to say this? We used Smartsheet. I like Wrike a lot better than Smartsheet. It was very much like Excel in a way. You had to learn formulas to use it, to get it to do the things you wanted to. Wrike is very much more kind of point and click, and you can just do what you want to do by telling it what you want to do. So for me, Wrike was very easy to use.
Amazing. So happy to hear. And I know we are just about at time today, so I think that is all we'll answer today for Q&A. If anyone has any questions that we didn't get to today, or if you just have general questions about either Wrike or MediaValet, please feel free to reach out to myself or Severio. We're happy to reconnect with Michelle and Kelsey and get those answers for you, or we can answer whatever we can ourselves. And again, thank you so much again to Michelle, Kelsey, Severio, everyone for joining us today. Really, really amazing session, covered some really amazing detail. And again, I think I speak for everyone. I said it was hugely valuable. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone else for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.